property
jury duty myself.
is,
It's,
the plan is for it to go to me.
that's
and
like
then
a lot of
6
work.
acres in that
Now,
section.
it should only take 5 minutes.
Does
Yeah, because they're not going
And it's been in the family since the year
Yeah.
1900.
little,
So it's supposed to go to me.
stuff that
I think
basically
what I would do is I would buy a starter car.
generate something
Maybe something
prime.
small
That's not
for the
what
next
Yeah.
10 years.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
once they move out,
You'll
and it goes to me, I'll probably tear the house down and just build new right there.
But you literally have to read that book.
Build my quote unquote
You
dream
know,
house.
put a bubble to fill out.
Wow.
It's only front and back. So if you ever got one, you and Rob go sit down
Dear
and
Drew.
call me and I'll tell you what I did. Because it's not user friendly.
So many things aren't.
No.
Dawn comes.
I texted him 10 minutes ago. Check to see if he answered me. I'll be in a couple minutes just picking up Reese from school.
Do you want to just wait a couple minutes?
We can wait for a couple minutes.
Okay. We're just gonna wait a couple minutes.
Can't we mark him as tardy?
3 cartons in your wall.
See,
We are-
Hayden hasn't been doing anything wrong.
We are live now, so.
Take one and pass it on. You there?
Yep. All right. Let's call the meeting to order. This will be the October 2022 work session for the Mayor and City Council of the City of Frostburg. Roll call when you're ready, Leslie.
Commissioner Donnie Carter.
Here.
Commissioner Nina Forsyth.
Here?
Commissioner Kevin Grove.
Here.
Commissioner Adam Ritchie.
Here.
And Mayor Robert Flanagan.
Here.
The first item tonight is a special presentation from Deirdre Robertson regarding the Brownsville Downtown Public Art Project. So I'll turn it over to her.
First, thank you very much for allowing me the opportunity to present sort of our progress so far and to take a moment to get some feedback from you as well before we move further in the process. As you may have seen, there's been a newspaper article and we've done some publications. We've also held 2 public meetings so far. The goal here is that we are intending to have a public art project somewhere in the Arts and Entertainment District that honors the Brownsville community in our downtown district. So one of the things that we've done so far is we've already secured $5,000 in funding from the State Arts Council for the planning process of this, and that's already underway. And this is essentially just to explore the project itself. Through this, we've already been able to hire a researcher who is going through and sort of doing a general survey to find out sort of what information we need to find out. Excuse me, it's allergies. So what more information we need to find out about, boundaries, how they changed over the years from the initial boundaries of Brownsville as that changed as the properties were sold off. Also beyond just who the property owners were, because that's one of the records that we have, but more about who all of the families were that actually lived on site. So they might have been renting or living with family at the time. Some of those records aren't readily available. So that's one of the first steps that we're looking at. The goal is to make this a long-term project that incorporates both public art and research as a whole, to turn this into something that could be incorporated into Maryland State Tourism's goal of increasing cultural tourism, in particular Black heritage tourism and civil rights tourism. Currently, Western Maryland is not really on the map when it comes to some of the efforts that they've pushed there. They have, for instance, this year was the year of Harriet Tubman. There's a Frederick Douglass driving trail. And again, Western Maryland's not really on the map for any of these things, and this kind of gives us an opportunity to take part in that. There's a lot of increased funding that's become available in recent years for projects specifically dealing with cultural tourism, and also recognition of communities like Brownsville that traditionally have been, in this case, displaced or forgotten, or had certain challenging backgrounds as far as the area goes. And so there are some of those unique opportunities that we'd like to take advantage of here in Frostburg to bring that to the community. So where we are right now with that is we're doing the research, and as you can see sort of on the second page, we've been looking at locations where we would want to put a public art project. So what the committee sort of started with the idea is to start with one piece that would be sort of a central idea, and this idea would be to have a sculpture or a statue or something representing the founder, Tamar Brown. Obviously, we don't have an exact likeness of Tamar Brown, so it would have to be somewhat interpretive. So with that,
Are any of her descendants around? Identified?
not that we're aware of like a direct descendant, and that's part of where that research
Okay, yeah.
comes in handy. We're hoping to expand that, and that would be something. One of the researchers that we've contracted with is actually really good at tracking down some of that, the post-slavery records and things like that. So we're hoping something will come out of that. So this is sort of on the wish list here. This was the first site that was identified by the committee, and the committee also includes members, the descendants of Brownsville. And the reason this was selected was, one, they wanted to have something that was really visible in the downtown, sort of recognize that this was a community that has largely been ignored, and in many cases a lot of people were not aware of until recent years. I know, I grew up in Kaiser, and I never actually knew anything about Brownsville until I started working up here. And one of the other things that was brought up that was really powerful was the fact that, of course, at one point the Palace Theater was segregated. So to have something representing the Brownsville community located in conjunction, to the Palace Theater would be a very powerful statement, powerful message. So this was the first site that was identified. I did meet with LJ helped me to meet with some representatives from the State Highway Administration. They came out and met with me on the site to make sure that there wouldn't be any issues with, the proximity to the road or anything like that. They didn't really see any significant issues as long as there's, space, and sort of where that arrow is where they said would be appropriate from that. And as far as what's underneath and checking for city lines or, water or any other infrastructure underneath, that would obviously have to be a next step. But before we moved any further in exploring that site, I did want to get some feedback from, City Council, and also some ideas on if you think that there would be more appropriate locations. Certainly, we don't want to have it located in a spot that's going to cause difficulty for, movement on the sidewalk. Snow removal, obviously, we know is a huge issue up here, and especially that location is a central area for that. And certainly for visibility's sake, too. We want to be sure that that's not going to cause any problems. So that's one of the things that we're just kind of wanting to get some feedback at this point before we move forward with that idea, or see if we need to kind of explore other options. So we have seen a lot of support from the community here. As I said, we hold 2 public meetings. We have seen positive reception from some of the Brownsville descendants who have attended, and I'm working very closely with Chloe Jackson. She's co-chair of the committee and has been leading the steering committee itself. with the Brownsville project. And then, of course, we're also consulting with Robin Winters at the FSU DEAI office on potential collaborations in the future with the multicultural building once that's in progress. And we have also identified additional funding sources at this point that we're going to be applying for through the National Park Service and the National Historic Trust to help expand some of the details that we talk about in the, because I don't want to read the whole thing to you, but in that project description we have there about sort of the continued phases of this project that would include overall a walking tour, having an incorporated website with oral histories, narratives, and things like that, so that this can really be something that's incorporated in our overall tourism and economic development. So that's where we are right now, and again, I appreciate the opportunity to bring this before you, and just would love to hear your thoughts and concerns and insights.
Well, the one thing I see maybe would be a problem with that spot is, as you know, in the wintertime, they pile the snow about 5 or 6 foot tall as it comes off. They have nowhere else to put it. So, after a week or two of the snow laying there getting dirty, and it would distract from what you're trying to do there, I think.
Sure.
Maybe put it on a high enough plinth.
Yeah, and that's one of the concerns. I mean, we're definitely, one of the things we're looking at too is the materials of the sculpture obviously are going to be an issue because it is Frostburg. Certainly the cost of that, we were looking at potentially something along cast bronze because that has the longest, it's most likely to survive. We look at like the Lefty Grove statue, thank you. In Lonaconee, that's cast bronze. That one, the minor statue is going to be in cast bronze. And additionally, since we are able to apply for significantly more funds than we would normally be in this year, that is not out of the realm of possibility. And that was something that was talked about, is if the sculpture itself is on a smaller scale and then the platform that it's on is raised, then potentially the platform could also be used as an opportunity for the descendants to have their names added, or as more research is done, having additional names or addresses, things like that added to it, and make that an ongoing part of the...
Or a little map of Brownsville or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, something like that.
My one concern I have with that location is our lampposts are magnets for impaired or otherwise bad drivers. And that lamppost has been taken out in the last couple years. And it's amazing how many lampposts get taken out, right, Nick?
Yes, we did locate and arrest that individual, just for information, but yes, they are.
The one on West Main?
So,
No, right here at the
this
palace. Yep. That one, we identified him too, the West Main one, but yes.
so I think potentially working together, we could, I know there's been a lot of discussion about a parklet and in a prominent location on Main Street, and maybe putting that in like a parklet setting where it's still prominent, but it's not directly adjacent to the sidewalk. Because it's easy enough to replace a lamppost, but it's not easy to replace a unique piece of art.
Very true.
Yeah, as long as it's, not hidden away somewhere. Because it kind of defeats the purpose.
Right, yeah. Okay. And I guess that would be the other question I would just have, is if you have any other suggestions on locations or, any other suggestions as far as artwork. Sculpture was kind of the first place that we went with this, but obviously it depends on where location would go. Murals are also still a possibility. It's very, very dependent on the location itself.
Wonder if the yard in St. Mike's if they would be open to that. That would be a good location. It's right.
Very central,
Yeah, I don't know.
Even over near the museum.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the concern being right along the road is pretty valid for a number of reasons. Plus, just thinking too with events at the palace, if it's for before. Sometimes, well, just the other day when you had the leadership, I
Yeah.
saw you taking everybody in, it kind of got real crowded there real fast.
Yeah,
So I don't know if we want to lose any real estate right there.
right on the sidewalk.
Yeah.
The museum owns the preschool building too,
Mhm.
and maybe if you incorporated like a grading to, because that's kind of a mess how it slopes there.
That's true.
You could incorporate, like regrade the front there so you're not competing with the sporadic stone
Mhm.
at the, at the museum proper, but it kind of has its own space.
And people do kind of go in there to like read that plaque that's from the
Mhm.
monument, I think, and then other things around the Braddock Stone. So it could be part of that whole complex. Though I do like the idea of a parklet if the timing works out okay.
Yes. Parklet is. Yeah.
Fun.
Just keep us in the loop.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, definitely. I just more or less just kind of a progress update, and I'll let you know as things progress. Our implementation deadline for applying for those funds is not until March, so this will still be an ongoing process. Once
Certainly
we're
can meet again. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
all right. Thank you so
Thanks a
much.
lot.
Thank you.
Hey, do you want to have your folks up?
Huh?
Do you want to have your folks up to the table?
Yeah. So, I think you guys have met some of the people here, but this is Rhiannon and John with RKK. I've been working with them for the past few months about the smoke testing program, and they have a
Is that what you-
proposal put together for us to just to bring everyone up to speed, kind of show you what an end product would look like, and just to give you the rundown. So I will turn it over to them.
So, as Hayden mentioned, there's the two main components of what we're proposing to do for the city, which is the smoke testing identify points. You're going through a lot of capital improvement to replace the collection system, but they're still on from that main to the resident or the business to identify points of infiltration, rainwater, groundwater still entering the collection system, which ultimately ends up at the treatment plant. So part of our aspect is to help identify those sources of extraneous flow getting into the system. And then the other one is creating a comprehensive map of your collection system, because it's lacking, right? Hayden's got a nice little desktop where we start drawing on, but it's incomplete. It's taken a lot of the existing drawings from previous projects, essentially when this capital project that you're doing right now, and putting it into a single use for future reference, and instead of having paper copies, make it a digital platform. So get a phone call, it's easier technology, use it, make it more of a click away instead of going through a file cabinet hanging file. So Rhiannon here is sharing on the screen some recent projects. We'll see we have over in the eastern panhandle where we've done some manhole inspection and developing some mapping. And then we have Davis, where we show what we've done with smoke testing. So if you have any questions, by all means, don't know the format here, but
Yeah, so this is for the smoke testing, which we need for all of our MDE stuff and to get people out of the sewers, and for our sewer and storm mapping. So this would be all of this includes the mapping too, which is what I really want to push.
Right.
So we're doing it all in one.
So
Yeah.
yeah, because the mapping, from talking to Hayden, it sounds like you've done a ton of streetscape projects. So when you've gone in to replace the sewer, you've also done water, storm, and sewer. So as part of that mapping, since we'll have that document in there looking at the sewer, we're going to do the water too. So that way there's a comprehensive map of both utilities. And then for the areas that haven't been replaced, that's where we'll get into the old documents, scanning them, and then actually looking in the field, trying to determine what's going on in some of those areas. So like John said, this is Charlestown Utility Board. So this is out in Jefferson County, and they cover a pretty large area. But I just wanted to show what we did for them. So their whole system is digitized into GIS. We did do manhole inspections for them, but the main part I wanted to show on here is is so all through the sewer lines, the cool part about GIS is you can look at any, this piece of pipe on this street, and you can pull up attributes with it. So what type of material is it? What size is it? What is the elevation of that pipe upstream and downstream? So it really allows you to have that living document, and as things change, Hayden can go in and update, or have an engineer come in and update a bunch at a time. But it creates that living document. It can also be utilized for asset management. So keeping track of your assets, what's been upgraded, what hasn't, and then he can put in work orders. They have different programs where he could put in an order for the guys to go out and clean whatever line on this day. So it's really helpful to have everything in that format.
And likewise with the water system, if you have a failure, you kind of bring it up and see, okay, what size pipe is it? Possibly what fittings or repair clamps I need to get for it. It just provides another tool.
So that's kind of just a quick overview of the mapping efforts that we'll do. We've also provided hard copy books too that are gridded out, so they're easy for the guys in the field. If they want that, if not, you can access this on your phone as well, which is really helpful. So then the smoke testing. We've smoke tested a number of local systems, but one of the things that we've been doing and talking to Hayden, we kind of set up this little demo. So this was Davis, West Virginia. So smoke testing, I guess if you're not familiar, it's of the sewer lines. So we put plugs in the sewer lines and we put a smoke blower on it. And we pump this pressurized smoke into the system and see where it comes out. So you'll see people's downspouts, people with broken laterals, you'll see it coming up through the ground. The storm drains, which in your case you shouldn't have that issue in most locations, it'll just be mainly private property issues. And what we do is we document those. So we'll document, we get the property owner, the address, and then we also take videos so that you can go back in and say, hey, your downspout's connected, you need to remove this, and then you have this proof, that yes, it is connected. So we have it set up that you can go to each point, click on that point, and you can see that defect in the video. So it's an easy way that Hayden could pull it up and show them.
Especially whenever you have one of your residents call and say, hey, where is it broken, or where do I need to fix? I don't believe you. It's like, well, we'll just bring that video up and share it with.
Yeah, so like some of the downspouts that we've had connected, the video doesn't lie. So.
And it's really hard, as Hayden can attest, with your photo, right? A photo on white, overcast sky, white smoke, really hard to visualize it. So that's why we do. You can always take a screenshot, if you want to have some extra something to print. But yeah, we do it for each location.
And as part of this, we also do the public notification. So we work with the city to notify the public of what's happening, send out notices, information about what the smoke is, who to call, all of that. So.
MDE also likes this plan. They like knowing that we have something set that we are proceeding with in order to get the illegal connections out of our system. So having a plan of action looks good in the eyes of the state.
We did this last summer in Grantsville. Last summer in Hancock as well.
Yeah, we did smoke testing in Hancock, Brownsville, some in Oakland. Then we've done Paw Paw, Wardensville, a lot of.
Last week we're in
further
Star City,
systems.
outside of Morgantown, if you're familiar. We were there, finished up this week.
Yep.
So
So anyway, that's kind of what we have. If you have any questions.
One other thing that their GIS data will do, which is important, is with us in the county and LaValle and Cumberland trying to renegotiate the sewer consent order, it's looking like their MDE is going to be asking us to do sewer modeling, which we can't do unless we have that GIS data with the invert elevations of the pipe and the diameter, so.
Yeah. So not only does this pull the city into the future, it also, it helps us a lot with the state in many ways, so.
Do you mean sewer mapping, or I'm not sure what you mean by
The-
modeling? How
the
would you,
GIS
how does,
So like they have special
Yeah.
programs that I don't understand, that you take the map data and figure out where the
Yeah.
sewer's going, what the flows are, where things might be getting in,
okay,
things
so
like
it's
that.
not just like where it is, but, okay, all that
Yeah.
other stuff, I see.
You can tell if things are over capacity, if they need to be enlarged. If you can add more customers up here, so can you add townhomes up here without?
Without stressing the system.
Yes.
Big
exactly.
thing there is growth. You know, if you want to, only existing capacity, do you have enough? Are you surging, you filling? It helps with that, but as Rena mentioned, it's that growth potential when you have new development come in. Versus guessing, you can actually, you'll see how that projected EDUs, how that will impact the whole system.
Yeah, and having that GIS does make it much easier because we've done modeling. Actually, in Charlestown, we did some too, but we had to go in and do all of this mapping first to
Sure.
get to that step.
This also takes our map room and turns it into this. So, and I can use it out there.
I don't know why you'd want that on there.
And so when I worked at the county, this is like, doing this for county utilities was one of the projects I was the most proud of. And admittedly, I probably forced myself on the utilities department to do this, but I thought it spoke volumes when our web server at the time that was doing what you see here went down, and the utility workers are calling me and saying, Elizabeth, I can't see my map. And with, some institutional knowledge with the city retiring and the not so distant future, I think that'll just become more and more important.
Is the resolution good enough on the phone that, in the field, it's useful enough?
Oh,
This is more
yes.
accurate than a GPS unit was, a $2,000 GPS unit was 10 years ago.
Yeah, I can walk within sometimes a foot of where the line's at.
So, and the quality is, if you ever use Google Maps to travel where you're going, I mean, that's the same kind of platform that you can zoom in and see particulars.
Yeah, it sounds like it hits a lot of things at once. Multi-use.
Does this partner with the mapping that BB&A has already been doing over
We
the years?
it will ultimately go together. Yeah.
Yeah, since they're both in GIS, ultimately, the city will own this GIS data, so they can all be incorporated together into.
And the plan is for BB&A to continue to do the water, and RK&K would do the sewer.
And stormwater. Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah. It's always nice to know what you're dealing with.
So I didn't attach the proposal to the agenda, but I don't remember the
Do you
number.
remember off the top of your guys' head?
I did bring it, but I do not know off the top of my head.
So this would be the project has already been approved under Arpa funding, but we didn't have a firm number. But this would be a resolution to award this to RK&K in the amount of,
$247,400. So, and that includes everything: smoke testing, mapping, wastewater mapping, stormwater mapping, and smoke testing. And then also coordination with putting together a deliverable to individual homeowners. So saying, hey, this is what's wrong with your property. Get that fixed. So
How much of the city will this cover?
all
The
of it.
entire
All
city.
your whole collection system.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we got some maps from Hayden, kind of pieced together how much footage there was and everything to base it off of that, so.
I think this is the best price we're ever going to see for the whole city. So,
Yeah, good.
any concerns? All right, thank you both very much.
Thanks.
I appreciate it.
You want that or?
Unless you want that, I'll take them both. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay. The next item I have for you this evening is the bond ordinance amendment for the community development. What's the A stand for?
Administration.
Administration, thank you. The CDA, thank you, my goodness. Ordinance that was used to finance this building. As you're aware, the ordinance was approved by the mayor and council and the bond was issued in 2019. And then in early 2020, we were notified that an additional $500,000 was included in the governor's budget for this building, which allowed us to furnish the building and do some other things without going into cash reserves to finish this project. So as such, there is $412,000 of the CDA bond issuance money still available, and it needs to be spent. So this ordinance will amend the original ordinance to include the downtown parking lot project as part of this overall project. So it's more or less taking the original bond ordinance and just expanding the scope of the project to include the parking lot as well. So this ordinance has been written by the city's bond council, and it has been reviewed by and approved by CDA's bond council. So if there's any questions, I can address them. Otherwise, this ordinance would be introduced at your October meeting, advertised in the paper with a public hearing, and vote on second reading at your November meeting.
Sounds defensible.
I'd say.
Okay?
Yep.
All right, thank you. Lydia and Hayden have some additional ARPA projects that have been discussed for the most part, and they have more information and look for, some may have already been approved for ARPA funding, but they have bids out now, so the awarding of the bid would need to be a resolution for some at council meeting, so they can go through those.
Yeah, so the first one is the street department roof replacement. We only got one bid, but it is a fairly comprehensive bid package. It's from Vertex Roofing for $131,400. That's definitely steeper than we expected, but with prices going up, it's not out of the ballpark. It's also very comprehensive. They're removing the old roof at the street department, discarding of all of it, doing new insulation, new rubber membrane, and actually regrading the roof to get all the water off the top, and doing new downspouts. That's for the entire portion of the Armory building that is not the basketball court and not MD or Division of Mines. So everything that houses our people will be new roofing. I don't think we're going to get it any cheaper than this. It would be my recommendation to accept it. If there are any questions, I can elaborate. I know the price is a little higher than we expected, but I sat down with the guy and talked to him for about an hour, and everything checked out. So if there are no questions, it would be my recommendation to take the bid and get them started. They said they can start pretty much as soon as I give them the go-ahead, so.
If the Bureau of Mines and Parks Department, if the roof on the rest of the building needs to be replaced and everybody went in on it, would it end
Well,
up being cheaper per square foot?
So we actually just had the Bureau of Mines roof inspected, and it's good for another 15 years.
Ah, okay, yeah.
And
That answers that.
the Armory roof, it checks out. It's still
Okay.
fine. So yeah.
Alrighty.
What was our original estimate on this?
We were thinking anywhere from 60 to 80, but
Yeah, I thought construction prices were stabilized now.
rubber membranes are
Not,
still going
okay.
up. Yeah.
Not cheap.
Just lumber is stable.
Yeah. Lumber's coming back down. Block is coming down. Some of the odds and ends are coming back down, but
What's the life on a rubber membrane roof, Hayden?
25 years, and it'll come with a warranty too. So Or, I mean, if we don't like this number, I can ask for a less comprehensive plan. We can ask him to do patching here and there, but I would suggest the whole roof. So, but that's my recommendation.
You just buy yourself another year or two and then have to get it.
Well, you won't get a warranty.
Correct,
Yeah.
correct.
And we've
I've
got
been through this.
And that's coming out of ARPA funding, so
Correct.
while we have it, get a good life out of it.
Yeah, I agree. It'd actually be the same white type of membrane that's on portions of this roof, so.
Adam, do you have any thoughts?
I mean, I'm just wondering why we only got one bid. You know, I mean,
And then no one at Height didn't want it. Height was a combination of too busy and didn't their rubber membrane group was busy for a while. It's also a complicated roof, so there's a lot going on out there.
How bad is it right now?
We've probably got 4 or 5 substantial leaks. If you walk out the street department, you'll see buckets everywhere. We can get more time out of it. We can have guys go up there with buckets of tar and keep slathering it on. My take on it is, while we have the ARPA money, do it now. Is it the end of the world if we don't do the roof this year? No. We can get through probably 2 or 3 more years with it, but it's just a combination. How far down the road do you kick the can? So.
I'm for it. I think it should be done.
Okay.
All good? Okay. All right, and keep going.
The next one is much less expensive, right on par with what we were expecting. Piney Dam valve rebuild. Yoders, whenever we had the emergency blow-ups at the dam and we were down to 1 pump, and we got new valves in, I had Yoders take one of our old cone valves, pull it out, and just hold it at their building for a while. Now that we are stable at the dam and things are moving and we're cycling 3 pumps, I'd like to have them rebuild one of the valves that we are kind of limping through. It's the valve they have at their facility. So to get that valve rebuilt so that we don't run into this situation again, they put a number together for me. It's $30,250. So $30,000 to get this valve rebuilt so that we can use it at the dam. And that's pretty much on par with any number you'll see for a rebuilt valve. You know, new valves are in the neighborhood of $40,000. But the valves we have out there that I would want rebuilt are pretty much the top of the line, you know, Cadillac of valves. So to get this valve rebuilt and be able to use it at the dam is what this would be. Protects us from emergencies, gets us back online fully with 3 pumps, and gets us in position to install a 4th pump ultimately. So it would be my recommendation to have it rebuilt and have it to be able to be used for us. So
basically it's $30,000 insurance policy.
correct.
Yeah.
And ultimately, if we don't need it for pumps 1, 2, and 3, we can use it on 4.
Right, okay, all right.
We never want to go back to that old
No.
situation.
No,
where,
I lost a lot of sleep that week. So.
Can I go?
Yes, ma'am.
So the next 2 LED projects haven't been approved and they will not be over $25,000. So it'll just be one resolution to approve of expenditures in both of those. So the Lions Park LED upgrades would replace the field lights at Lions Park. There's a small business direct install incentive program through Potomac Edison right now. So based on the quote for that project, the cost would be around $60,000. They would cover around $40,000, which their estimate that we would have to pay with the ARPA funds would be $22,188. So it would be the staff's recommendation to go with that while the incentive program still exists, because we're not going to get those lighting upgrades for any cheaper than that. And that was the cheapest. The other quotes were around $100,000 for the project. And then
And then you reap the benefit of the electricity savings.
Yeah.
oh yes, 60%. So the incentive program would cover 60% of the project cost, and it would save us annually $11,000 and 100,000 kilowatts.
Yeah.
So that's exciting.
That must be if the lights are on all the time, because I don't think that we pay near that. We don't pay $22,000 or something to put the Lions Field lights.
I suppose it would be if the lights were on continuously. So we could do it.
You'd be surprised, they're probably not that efficient.
The ones that are there now.
Yeah, they're probably big old school bulbs, so.
And who that quote was from is Wildan. I don't know much more about that. That quote was provided to me by Brian. And then the next project is the LED street lighting upgrades. This is part of a comprehensive citywide upgrade of the lampposts. We have estimated we have around 37 LED light fixtures that need to be replaced with the retrofit heads from Hadco. Since we need a specific light, we can buy the lighting fixture sole source and just do the labor as a quote, and we have a quote for that would cost us the $27,000 total, but only around $25,900 for the labor of that install. There's a 12-week lead time so on the lighting fixtures, so it wouldn't be until probably early next year that we'd be able to do the project.
The LED heads have continued to go up in price, and because we're replacing old LED with new LED, there is no incentive.
Right.
But our old first generation LEDs are about as bright as a candle, so.
Yeah, from a public safety issue, if you want to drive out down Ormond Street here to Broadway, look left to where they're already there, and then look right and see what a big difference it makes for the safety of people in the evenings walking and stuff.
I've actually had two people ask me down the street here. I said, they're coming. So
And
people are happy with them.
the new ones will come with a remote that can control the dimness, brightness, so that we can set them at like 60% or whatever, so they're not quite so bright.
How old are the first generation?
11 years. They were just, those at that time weren't as high lumen output as the ones we have now to begin with, and they just didn't have the lifespan either. So I think we will get more life out of these new ones.
The old ones were $2,400. If you do the math, that was 30+ years ago. But they actually became.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lydia. Hayden has some equipment he wants to declare surplus. I don't know that we have a list quite ready yet, but
It's two trucks. The first one is the 2001 Peterbilt garbage truck, the one that we've been bubble gum and duct taping along for 5 years. The old red garbage truck. It'd be nice to just get it off the lot now that we have two good trucks. We'll just send that down the line rather than put any more of our money into it. The second one is the old jetter truck. So it's not a vac truck, it's the old school, it's basically a big pressure washer. Now that we have the new fancy top of the line vac truck, we no longer need the jetter truck. We tried talking to FSU, seeing if they wanted to do some partnership where they keep it and we can still use it, but they have no use for it. So I think it would be in our best interest to sell it while it has value and get it off our lot. So
Peterbilt petered out?
yeah, literally, it limps along. So.
Now that garbage truck was the one we only used on Sundays, right? Just for a selling
Yeah,
point.
yeah. I think they'd be able to tell right away. It is rough. So
Oh, it's nice. Nice tires.
The tires might be worth more than a truck.
Vintage garbage truck.
And we got a deal for you. Commissioner, you good with that?
I'm good. Yeah.
So, here's some not so great news. The City of Cumberland approached us and the county and LaVale Sanitary Commission a couple months ago about forming a coalition in the purchase of our electricity through Tradition Energy. The City of Cumberland and the City of Frostburg have used Tradition Energy for many years to broker our electricity purchases directly from a supplier. We've always been happy with the Tradition Energy relationship. However, due to a myriad of factors, the electricity pricing has increased substantially from what it was in 2020 when you did this last. We signed a 3-year contract with Constellation Energy at the time for about 5.5 cents. It is now anywhere between 9 and 10 cents. By going with the City of Cumberland, Allegany County, and LaVale, it's a much larger electricity consumer by us working together. So therefore, we should be able to take advantage of better pricing because it's just from the supplier side, they're just negotiating one contract. The City of Cumberland's term expires in November. The county and LaVale are currently paying market rate through Potomac Edison. The City of Cumberland, of course, is the biggest consumer with the treatment plant, both treatment plants. County has some big, the county has sewer treatment plants as well as places like the detention center. So we're kind of small potatoes. So I think it does behoove the city to join in this partnership or coalition. However, those other 3 groups have selected the 2-year term, which would lock you in at 9.5 cents. There is some gamble for the City of Frostburg. Because we would have our 5.5 cent rate until May 1st. Adam Kurzer, who is our consultant through Tradition Energy, has recommended that we go ahead with this as well. I don't know energy markets well enough to predict what the energy rates have been, and the Cumberland has been struggling for months over when to do this. Should they kick the can down the road? Should they just lock in now? So yesterday they had a final meeting and the 3 of them agreed to just go for it now. But for Frostburg, we would lock in, if you wanted to, we would lock in next Friday after council meeting at 9.5 cents or whatever the rate's going to fluctuate between now and then. Whatever that would be for the 24-month period. But our 2-year term wouldn't begin until May 1st of 2023 and carry us through May 1st of 2025. So we would have the same rate, but just a different schedule than the 3 others.
Wait a second. If we join the coalition, the new rate would start next Friday.
No.
Oh, it
You
wouldn't
would
start
lock-
till May.
yes,
We'd lock that in, but it wouldn't start until our May. Okay.
Coal-fired power plants going offline in the Mid-Atlantic and natural gas uncertainty and availability are kind of the big 2 factors that they pointed to. Compared to New England, they're paying 30 cents. So, Adam is based in Connecticut.
Everything is pointing towards energy rates going up a
Yeah.
lot. So
That's what I've been hearing too.
I think the 2-year term is good in terms of looking at the resiliency study and talking about, with that microgrid resiliency plan that Optimized Renewables is working on for the city. We'll have that report shortly. And so I think depending on what that recommends and the financing of such, I don't think any alternative energy new project will be implemented and operational within 2 years. Which you don't want to go online and, it would cause problems with our contract if all of a sudden we're 80% solar powered and we had this electricity contract. So
Would that be considered breaking the contract if your consumption changes within a certain percentage?
it probably wouldn't be a big deal in the coalition because it's not a huge reduction.
I see. Yeah.
But before, when we were standalone, it
It
was
would've been.
problematic.
Okay. Oh, that really points then towards joining the coalition. And if we don't have to pay the new rate until our old contract is up, it seems like the best course.
Okay, is everyone agreeable to that?
I don't see anything on that.
Okay,
So in 2 years, if the coalition's rate was to go down, we would still be locked in at a higher rate than for the remainder of our 2 years? Am I
Mhm.
understanding that correctly?
yes, yeah. But then we'd be at that lower rate.
After our 2 years.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. The next one is something that I haven't discussed with you. It's kind of, that's not working. I haven't discussed with you since I've been administrator, and I think, when was the last time it was discussed? 2011? It's been quite a while ago. But in the state of Maryland, there is a homestead credit program where if you live in your home, in the property that you live in, if you get a homestead approval through the State Department of Assessments and Taxation, if your assessment goes up by more than 10% in any given year, your tax liability doesn't go up more than 10%. So, let's just say your assessment goes up 20%. If you have the homestead credit, it means you're only paying, under Maryland law, 10% more in taxes. However, local jurisdictions can set that homestead tax credit rate at anything they want, between 100%, so no increase, or 110%, the state max of the tax credit. Have I lost anyone? Because I've lost myself, I think. Okay, so right now the city of Frostburg is at 6%, and I wanted to bring it to your attention if you wanted to, because next year is the year that the assessment cycle for Frostburg. So next year is the year people would see an increase in assessments, or the following, I don't know. I can't.
The assessments are made next year and then
They
they go
do.
into effect.
They're reassessed every 3 years.
Yes, so probably July 1,
The new assessments go into effect.
yeah.
And
So,
then they go into the cycle for the following year, so come August or September.
right. So the city is currently set at 106%. So if your property value goes up 20%, you're getting a tax credit of 14% of what that difference would be. Allegheny County and all of the other municipalities in Allegheny County are at 4%. Garrett County ranges, some are 10%, some are 5%. Some places in Maryland are 0%. It's all over the place. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention for discussion. There's a very small credit that is given right now. Like, there's very few properties that qualify for a credit right now. If assessments go up more significantly next time, that credit would be larger. And could therefore affect more homes and have a bigger financial impact to the city. I definitely wouldn't recommend 0%, but or 100%. I would, but I just wanted to bring that to your attention. If you wanted to keep it at 106, reduce it to 104, increase it to 110.
And no action's needed if you keep it.
Correct.
It's just if you want to change it.
And my research on appraisal wise is 6 to 9% over the last year increase in value. So we're not talking.
I was wondering.
I mean, if we kept it the same, we're not talking losing much of anything. Yeah.
And it would make what kind of difference to the homeowner on average? Do you get any sense? Because I'm like,
No,
I
we're
have
not
no
talking
idea.
a lot, but the other thing is too, values are probably gonna start going down. Interest rates are around 7% now, when 6 months ago they were 3.5%. So, I mean, it's a toss of the coin whether assessments are gonna go up or not, really.
Okay.
But when you're talking, any given year, if, $100,000 house, if their assessment goes up to $110,000, you're talking, couple bucks, tops, yeah.
I mean, it just seems like there's no big reason to change it.
That's your recommendation?
Just keep it the same.
Okay. Very good. Thank you.
Holly jolly.
Yes. So first of all, you can just take one and pass it down. Thank you for allocating the funding for this program. It has been wildly popular. At this time, the application deadline is set for tomorrow. As of Monday, we had received 20 applications, which was the maximum amount that we could fully fund. I have 5 that are on a wait list right now. I just saw one more get dropped off since we've begun this meeting. And I've also heard from one other person who will be submitting this evening. At this time, I would ask you to consider perhaps an additional allocation, maybe a minimum of $2,500. That would allow us to fund 10 more projects. So that would encapsulate the 7 that are on the wait list, and then if we had 3 more come in tomorrow, which is the deadline. We certainly don't want anyone to feel excluded or, sad that perhaps they waited too long to get their application in. And with the film crew coming for Storybook Holiday, we certainly want our halls to be decked as much as possible.
I don't see any inflatables on the list, so yeah, I'm fine.
Are you against inflatables?
They look so dead during the day. There's garbage strewn on them.
Yeah, I don't think there were any
I
inflatables
didn't see any.
proposed.
Yeah, there's Langley's inflatable.
Oh,
stand.
no.
They just have to keep it on 24/7.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Terms and conditions.
We're locking in the electric rate.
Yeah, so the color key on this, I have it listed on here, but the green ones are people who have already been we've committed funding to them. And then folks that are highlighted in blue, those are the ones that are on the wait list at this time.
We just need consensus of an additional amount of money that you feel should go to this. As we discussed initially, this will be coming out of hotel motel tax, so there's ample funds for, I'd say, $2,500 to $3,000 additional dollars.
girls want? 25 or 3?
Well, I'm gonna say 3 because I'd like to fund more projects.
I think 3 would be
Okay.
enough.
Sure.
All right, 3,000 more.
Thank you very much.
Thank you guys.
While I don't have it on the agenda, but do you have your sign picture with you?
Oh, yeah.
So while they're talking, we have a concept for the gateway sign at 36 and 40. I'm just looking for your feedback. We kind of want to work on the top part a little, make it a little less busy, but
Looks like the Rocky Mountains.
a little less
Or
worse
the,
than
or the Alps, one of the two.
The churches and organization signs would go in the middle, the blue squares, and then the black squares would be like Tree City USA, Maryland Smart Energy Community. So, Lydia and Bethany, would like any comments you have on that? Or support, concurrence to go ahead. Because if somebody doesn't like it, you'll hear about it.
There will be somebody.
As long as the mountains look like they're like taller than 2,900 feet, I think we're okay. No, I think that's a real good start.
Yeah.
Real good start.
Would you, when they get the top part finished, do you want them to just email an image out to you?
Perfect, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
That might look neat on there. Instead of having the mountains behind it, you could find a way to pull Frostburg down and have the trees cut out of metal, just as silhouettes.
Ooh.
That'd be cool. Are you ready?
We'll get Tree City USA credit for
Like the
that.
Alps,
Yeah. You just have a whole bunch of real tiny trees on the
Seems like a lot of the trees are pine trees too.
They used to be all pine trees.
Yeah. They updated with a variety.
Yes.
All right, very good, thank you.
Thank you.
Gotta have some service berries in them.
All right, thank you both.
Nice.
The next one, the Bobcat Court Stormwater Management Pond has been a thorn in a lot of people's side, it seems, since it was constructed, but I'll try and give you a brief history. The city's never been a big player in this project. However, all of the stormwater going into the pond is city stormwater. This project was conceived by Soil Conservation when Will Jenkins was still alive and a big partner with Soil Conservation. And that was also the time that Mr. Unger was developing the Bobcat Court apartment buildings and needed stormwater management. So this concept, and Frostburg State University was doing some development projects and was anticipating the need for stormwater credit. So this concept of building this stormwater management pond that accommodated the Unger development, captured some city stormwater, and would be oversized for future FSU credits was conceived and sat on the shelf for quite some time. And then Soil Conservation and County Public Works together got grant funding in, I want to say 2014 or 15 to build this pond. At the time, the land was still owned by Allegany Coal and Land, and the pond got built. It has a big liner in it, and it's right behind, what's that, Cambridge? It's right behind Cambridge, the end of Bobcat Court, very close to Sand Spring Run, and probably over some mine shafts. So, life happens, and the property wasn't transferred to FSU. That was part of the agreement, is for this future credit, Frostburg State would take ownership of the pond. So now, Allegany Coal and Land, it never transferred. FSU doesn't want it because they've been told that there are no stormwater credits. Like, that's not a thing. That's not gonna work. Mr. Steve Jenkins with Allegany Coal and Land is still working with the university to maybe provide resolve. But unfortunately, and Will Jenkins passed away, so his understanding and support of the project is no longer. And so now Steve Jenkins is managing a pond that provides him no financial benefit and a lot of liability. The county recently inspected that pond, and there's some cleanup work they need to do. They've also been informed by MDE that they need to do a dam safety plan, and because of the structure of the pond. It's just a mess. So Steve Jenkins has asked the city, is after he gets the significant brush cleaned up, if the city would maintain the pond on a twice a year basis by just mowing the grass to keep woody vegetation on the banks from growing, which you don't want in a structure like that. We have new 4-wheel drive tractors in the rec department. We have brush hog. Like, it's not a big deal. And I think, considering the history of the project, considering the fact that city stormwater goes into the pond, it's the least the city can do. Steve is not asking the city to take any ownership or responsibility of the pond, but just help out in terms of maintenance. So if you are okay with that, I will just send him a letter agreement that says we will do this. If our guys get hurt, it's our liability insurance, but we're not taking any other responsibility beyond that.
That sounds good.
Okay. All right, thank you. I'll take care of that with Steve. The county Director of Public Works, Adam Patterson, approached Hayden and me over in the vicinity. So when Pritchard Farms was built, we knew that there was drainage issues associated with Cherry Lane. And as such, Chris Hovatter insisted that the stormwater management pond that was constructed was oversized for quantity, which means it held more water than it needed to. However, just because that's stormwater getting, from the streets getting into the pond, there's still the drainage issue. It still exists. It didn't get better because of the pond, because only the neighborhood constructed is going to the pond, but the other drainage issues that previously exist have not remediated some drainage issues. And when I say drainage issues, it's the stuff that happens when you get a heavy rain in a shorter period of time and the water just erodes banks or goes into people's yards and is a nuisance. Oversized, culverts can't hold it, whatever. So the
So
county,
it's like coming down from 36 down the
probably
hillside.
that just whole area, and it's just,
Maplehurst all the way down.
Okay.
so the county has asked, they would like to do a small drainage improvement project between Cherry Lane and 936 along that ditch line. The county would design it, the county would permit it, but they are looking for some city assistance with construction costs because most of the drainage issue is in city limits and it's affecting county residents. So I just wanted to run that. It's very preliminary. They haven't started on anything yet, but I just wanted to talk to you about that and make sure you were comfortable with me going back to Mr. Patterson and saying that that was agreeable in concept. We have no construction cost estimates at this point.
Let us know what it is.
I can't imagine it will be steep either. It should all be mostly just earthwork, so.
Okay.
Donnie, Adam?
Can't really say anything until we get a number.
Okay.
So yeah, preliminary.
You got the okay to give us a number?
Next step. Yes.
Okay. Will you communicate that to Adam Hayden was like a long story to tell. I'm sorry. Last year, this time, we recommended that you select MuniCode as your vendor for a new website. The other company that we considered seriously was Civic Plus, but MuniCode does our website hosting and it was a lot cheaper. Since that time, Civic Plus bought MuniCode, and every other company that provides an online municipal service. So one of the things that MuniCode didn't really address, and we were going to have to look at like an additional add-on, was public information request, like an online solution for that, where people can submit their public information request, and then we can track that all the requests have been completed. We have 30 days, but if we are going to take longer than 10 days, by law, we have to notify them that we need more than 10 days within that 10 days. So right now, other than police reports, it's been fairly minimal, and some like rental housing information, which is fairly quick to pull. But there's been times, and you've been involved, where we've had complicated public information requests or a larger volume. So this company, NextRequest, has since been bought by Civic Plus, and it's all part of the package. And they're offering a fairly discounted rate for that. It's still it's like $4,000 normally. They'd offer it to us at a much less rate right now to get us through July 1. The thought that I had is MuniCode has an online meeting management solution that is much less expensive than iCompass. It's different, but it would save several $1,000s a year, and if everything else is with one company, why not just make the meeting management software the same?
Have you experienced it?
I've done a demo, yes, and it's different.
Is
But there's a lot of features in iCompass that just because of our smaller nature we're not using, and so I think because of the cost savings, I'd recommend going to that product. Bethany might hate me, but
Hey,
I think we're done with other transitions that it wouldn't be so painful, and it would do everything. It does everything that we need it to do, and maybe a little bit in different ways.
fairly easy to use that.
Yeah. So by adding that public information, yes, and like the other advantages is like searching for meeting information would be fully integrated into the website rather than clicking a link to go to another website. So that is a big advantage of going to the MuniCode solution. So all that being said, I think if we go with this NextRequest now, so we can start using it and stuff, and then make that switch, because our iCompass contract will expire, or our service will expire at the end of June. We could make that switch, and it'd be very close to a net zero change in costs, but it would provide another service that people could do police report requests online, and it would just streamline. We've done some streamlining of the police report approvals in the police department that I don't sign off on them anymore. The chief does, but
It's been outstanding.
and we've gotten public information requests of public information requests, and right now my filing system is a bin on my desk that I throw them all into, but it's not very effective. So are you okay with me moving forward with this request software and then?
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Anything to
Throw
make
your
life
phones
easier.
away.
All right. Lydia.
So as you're familiar with Deck the Meters, we were approached by John Howe about interest in expanding a holiday decor option to include ornamenting the street trees. So residents, so we'd like to do a contest for residents that have street trees in front of their property to register and decorate them We are planning to judge them on first, second, and third place prizes for most whimsical tree, and staff would like to request $200 towards the prizes for that contest.
That's just in front of people's like private properties and that has nothing to do with like the street trees downtown.
Correct.
So that's anywhere.
What, yes,
Okay.
I mean, a business could do it too,
Mm-hmm.
if they had a street tree in the sidewalk in front of them.
I guess my only hesitation would be that we've got the decameters, we've got the light pole, the wreaths and stuff, and it might start looking too busy if everything downtown was like a little.
If you wanted to restrict it to residential areas only, this was the house tree last
That's
year.
what people like put big orange.
I mean, yeah, it's like silly. So, I mean, I don't know if you want that. Maybe you want white lights and candles in the window. So that's why we're talking to you about it.
That was the one that's just down the street there.
Mhm.
Yeah, that one. I mean, I think that's fine.
And this was their inspiration tree in Cumberland. So I mean, it's silly.
Yeah. Which I think is fine, like on residential streets. I just think that downtown, got to keep it classy. If you know what I mean. Just I don't want too many competing things going on, and then it gets too busy looking.
Do we have concurrence for this in the residential
I mean,
areas?
I'm okay with businesses too. I mean, don't.
Because they're already decorating their storefronts and stuff.
Right.
So.
There's not
I
that
mean, I
many
just think the
trees
more the
in
better.
downtown.
I like Christmas decorations, so I'm okay with it.
Do we want to just say not the main street trees?
No, but I mean, like on West
Main.
Main Street and East Main Street, just not the downtown. I'm thinking.
Okay.
Not where the reeds are.
Yeah, not where the wreaths are.
Does that sound okay?
Am I too picky?
I mean, I just think you don't want to exclude anybody from it.
We're already
Down East Side of
excluding
downtown
people
with
that don't have
plenty of
trees.
There are too many, trees in
No.
downtown anyways, right?
No. Most of the trees in the downtown area are in front of vacant buildings. To be honest.
In the library.
Yeah. And we have provisions like they can't break the tree,
Yeah,
they
no
can't
process.
trim
This
the
is just
tree,
a draft of
They-
the.
no glass on the tree. Like,
I mean, there's no outlets. So
No booze.
Yeah, like I said, as far as like, you're not gonna plug lights in, you're gonna be using the LED with the battery packs on.
or
Extension.
extension cord and
Yeah.
taping it to the sidewalk kind of thing. We might have to.
So Matt and Paul come and remove the snow and it's like,
We're just gonna get a light dusting.
Are you against the option of plugging into the lamppost?
Yes, we're not paying for it.
They wanna pay 9.5 cents? Elaine smiling, see?
They're not separately metered.
Yeah, put a meter on each lamp post.
How many trees do we have that we'd call in our planters? It's only between
I like it.
Oh,
Water
it's-
Street and Bowery Street.
Yeah.
It's not many.
There's only 4 between Broadway and Center. And then there's probably 6 or 8 between Center and Bowery. Those have businesses in them.
Well, if people like to decorate, they're gonna do it regardless of whether there's a prize or not. They're gonna do it just 'cause,
Mm.
like Commissioner Richard said, they just like to decorate.
But it would be open for all over town. So you have Mormon Street, Frost Avenue, some on Wood Street. I mean,
If we include what I'll call the city trees in the downtown, we have to have somebody, we have to have contact who's doing it. Kinda like with the parking meters versus, it's a.
We're gonna register.
Yeah, register, so it would be free for all, so we know who's doing it.
Yeah, so the registration has like all their contact information, or if they have a tree but they don't want to decorate but approve of someone else decorating their tree, they can check that box too.
you don't want to be competing with Jack's tree. Yeah, I get it, because we'll hear about it. Oh, okay. We'll just change it to in front of residential properties. And leave, I think that satisfies.
Just thinking, some of the trees we have planted on are, they're still kind of young. Wouldn't want to cause them damage.
Want to overburden them, yeah.
Thank you guys.
All right.
And who knows, maybe no one will do it,
Yeah,
but
right.
we just, it
Oh,
was
I
just,
think I like takers.
I'm not telling Kristen about it. Put lights in the trees.
More lights in front of my house.
We'll let her know.
It is residential, they decided, so.
I don't know if they still do it, but growing up, the Columbia Mall took, like, they had trees as tall as this room, and they strung white lights, the whole trunk, and all the main branches, like, close together throughout their whole parking lot, and it was beautiful. But, I mean, the amount of electricity, the amount of money on lights, the amount of labor, I just can't even imagine.
Okay, Grinch.
It's a lot of work.
Around here we call them
green.
dreams.
He's the one that had the house across from Georges Creek Elementary.
Okay.
Decorate. He would start at, towards the beginning of November, and he turned them on December 1.
Okay.
It took him weeks to get everything.
Okay.
Hayden can be on your decorating committee.
Nope, too busy. That's
I'm like the
protesting going
inflatable
on.
advocate.
He can be carrying a 12-foot step ladder all over town.
We'll get him to do the high decorations.
Okay, so that is all I have. If you have anything for discussion other than the closed session, we need someone to read the closing statement.
I have two quick ones. Timber harvest marking is almost done, so we'll be looking to get ready to put that out to advertisement for the spring timber harvest that we talked about with Randy Camp, measuring it out for us and everything. The second one, I didn't feel like it was my place to decide. There's a group of people getting together on Washington Street, on the end, right next to Giuseppe's. They want speed bumps there. I told the lady who called me that if she got together with a group of people who live there and bring it up, that I would bring it to mayor and council. But I hate speed bumps. I want nothing to do with them as far as snow plowing goes. But if a group of people want them, they pay their taxes, I figured I would present it to you guys. So she said they might come to mayor and council meeting and ask about speed bumps. So this is me.
Give them a
letting
heads up.
you know. Yeah, so.
So one thing Nick and I have discussed about doing up at Rhinex, where I've gotten similar complaints, is the speed sign that we have logs the speeds. So I think that's a good first step, because you get some quantitative data as to how fast people are actually going. And I think we can deactivate this screen that tells you how fast you're going, so it, because that might have a mental effect on people to slow down if you see that you're going over the speed limit, but it'll still log the speed.
So they want it on Washington, not on Grant.
Correct, on Washington. Yeah, she
Or
was saying
Bowery.
that.
Bowery.
Yeah, so for the part of Washington that heads towards Mountain Ridge, not the far end by Mountain Ridge, but basically from Giuseppe's to Green, yeah.
Do they want in it because people are speeding, or because they want less people on the road?
People are speeding.
I mentioned at the last mayor and council meeting, we have had a large number of general speeding complaints lately. I'm not sure what the influx is, if people are just more lead-footed lately, or if it's because school's back in session, FSU's in full swing, we have the increase in traffic. But we've had complaints from McCullough Street, Washington Street, South Water Street, Rhinex, Washington Street, I mean, pretty much all over Frostburg. So we've been running radar. We made like 159 traffic stops last month, I think. We've done a couple different things. Elizabeth and I spoke about using the speed sign, trying to gather some real empirical data rather than just kind of eyeballing it. And catching what we can catch on patrol. I've talked to Commissioner Grove. We have some guys interested in forming a traffic enforcement team where they would work extra maybe once a month or so and do traffic initiatives either under grant funding or comp time or overtime. So, and we bring our cadet in to help with dispatch because that could be overwhelming for them. So, got a couple irons in the fire, a couple ways to address it, but and there's always a lot of interest in speed bumps and those things, but those are kind of engineering and professional decisions more than a speed matter alone. And the enforcement aspect, we're glad to do it. So those are just some ideas we've kicked around.
Yeah, I think let's go with them before the speed bumps.
Yes, sir.
Because I know my guys don't.
Yeah,
they don't
yes,
like
sir.
'em.
Yeah, I can see one of our $5,000 plows getting blown up now.
Yeah, it's a nightmare if you're plowing to go over those speed bumps.
Yeah.
Especially if you're going fast.
Well, in reality, your snow removal, you have to go fast. You can't go 10 mile an hour and remove snow.
Right.
So you've got to keep your speed up to do snow removal.
That's why they're going 80 miles per hour down my street.
Now, how fast were they?
Start
really
with the
going?
signs in her neighborhood.
Yeah.
You're in there complaining about.
I will say, just in fairness, we do find people speeding. We try to use some common sense and be fair. The eyeballing it method generally tends not to be accurate. When we go run radar, we generally find speeds are lower than the reported, but often people are speeding. So we just try to use some common sense and fair enforcement.
Maybe I don't know, Chief, if you could get some officers over there too to, maybe talk with some of the residents on that
Yeah.
end of the street too,
Sure.
That may help,
Yeah.
a presence
Sounds
there,
good.
it's,
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
Washington Street is a busy street.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, especially when
Catching all the
school is-
traffic coming out of Mountain Ridge.
Yeah.
You know.
The lady who called me lives at 42 Washington Street. So the little block there is the people
Gotcha.
who are concerned.
The street gets a lot narrower there.
Yeah, yes, it does. Yeah, a lot of heavy parking on that last block too on the
Yeah.
west side.
Here's something that might help out that a little bit, alleviate some of that traffic. I've noticed dropping my kid off at Mountain Ridge. I know somebody's usually there in the afternoon directing
Yeah.
traffic, but a lot of
Yeah.
times in the morning, the person that pulls up down there just sits in their car and doesn't. So your only option if you're coming out and going left is going
Yeah.
down Washington Street,
Yeah,
because you're going to
Yeah.
sit out there forever. But maybe have that person get
Yes.
out and do a
Yes.
little traffic direction.
yeah, I'll talk to them about that. We have had a lot of contention with the left turn lane during the busy times ever since it went in. It's my personal opinion from being there directing traffic. When it's really busy, there's a very high risk of traffic collisions when people come out the left turn lane. So we deliberately try to make them the last priority and make them go down Washington Street. And when there's very low traffic, there's no need for the left turn lane. So I'm very unhappy that it's there because I think it's very high risk and unnecessary, and it creates us congestion problems. Because when basically we can keep everything flowing when people go out and go right. We can keep people going right, we can keep westbound traffic going, and there's much less risk of a T-bone collision. But that is part of the problem, is we do direct a lot of traffic or try to encourage it to go down Washington Street. But I'd certainly be glad to talk to you or Hayden or Commissioner Ritchie, anybody about that, because that too there's an engineering aspect to that too. I'm
Yes.
just talking from traffic control,
Because then you're getting into the state highway.
Gotcha,
So
yeah,
I don't have the authority to
yeah,
say we
yeah.
gotta do away with that lane because then state highway will lose
Yeah.
their mind. So
yeah,
And in my years as a police officer, especially this time of year, when you're stopping those people coming east on Main Street, you get a lot of collisions because somebody doesn't realize they're stopping and the other car hits somebody in the rear end. And I mean, it happened a lot because you can't see there.
yes. And the westbound is scary because sometimes there's not traffic there and you start letting people out. And if somebody comes up from McDonald's and Billy Bender's, if they're not paying attention and seeing us on the road, there's a high risk of T-bone collision there. And we've had a couple close calls, even when we're there, but definitely when we're not there. But it's a busy place, and that's a good thing, very healthy for the community and all that stuff, but it's a lot of traffic, and you have the other stuff that goes with it, the speeding complaints and all that too.
but yeah, so there might be someone here next week to talk about speed bumps. So
Yeah, I don't know if that's the answer.
Could do those those optical illusions on the road.
Yeah.
Oh, they're pretty cool.
Anybody else have anything else?
Thank you.
Thanks, Nick.
Yes, sir.
So you want me to read this closing statement?
You do it.
Under the annotated Code of Maryland Article Section 3-305B1, a closed session may be held to discuss the appointment, employment, assignment, promotion, discipline, demotion, removal, resignation, or performance evaluation of appointees, employees, or officials over whom this public body has jurisdiction. A closed session is needed to review specific employee assignments in the Community Development Department.
Motion and second to go into closed session.
Make a motion, we go into closed session.
Second.